Tropical storm watches in Hawaii ahead of Hone. With much fanfare, we saw the development of Tropical Storm Hone, the first Central Pacific named storm in nearly 5 years, and it is heading for Hawaii with its tropical storm watches in effect, currently at 16.5 degrees north, 146.2 degrees west, moving west right now at around 25 kilometers per hour, which is 15 miles per hour there. Just a touch south of west actually. Currently we're estimating winds of 45 miles per hour and a pressure of 1001 millibars. This is the latest as of 6 a.m. Hawaiian Standard Time this morning, August 23rd. The storm will continue moving in a generally westward direction at a decent pace and will be passing the Hawaiian Islands early over the weekend actually into early next week. Well, here it is right now. It is a fairly modest wind field extending out up to 80 nautical miles in the northeastern quadrant, but in the southwest, for instance, it's as low as 30 miles. Tropical storm watch, as mentioned, for the Big Island of Hawaii. It is currently 1166 kilometers from Hilo, 1343 from Kahului, 1496 from Honolulu, 1669 from Lihue, and 2639 from Johnston Atoll, which is well towards the southwest of the islands. The storm may end up getting closer to Johnston Atoll than maybe some of the other Hawaiian islands, unless it decides it's going to turn a bit further towards the north, which is a possibility at the moment, but the long-term track of the storm is relatively uncertain. We're just mainly concerned about the Big Island of Hawaii. So it may impact the island with storm force winds and rain of up to 4 inches, but pretty much the locked-in concern and the greatest hazard still at this point is sea conditions and dangerous riptides and currents, especially on the southern coastlines of the Big Island, but they have of course noted there could be some flooding, rains, heavy rainfall on the downslopes of the southern side of the Big Island. So let's take a look at that forecast over the next few days then, and here it is. It gets quite close to the Hawaiian Islands there. This is the latest expectation. Of course, it could still go either side on this cone, so it could get closer to Hawaii or it could move a little bit further away. It is riding it very close there for potential storm conditions on land. By the time we get to next week, you can see there by Thursday it's dissolved into a remnant low, and the remnants could continue for a while longer towards the western Pacific. Right now, a decent agreement of 45 mile per hour winds. If anything, estimates are actually a little bit lower. The ADT estimates currently both running with 40 miles per hour. ASCAT saw some 40 mile per hour wind barbs earlier, although it didn't manage to sample the entire storm, so could still be higher there. National Hurricane Center with their last advisory going with 45 miles per hour, and that's what we're running with as well. This was their cone at their last update. This was 5 a.m. Hawaiian Standard Time, so that cone came out very early because I had this ready about an hour ago. And you can see there just how close it gets to the Big Island. It is within just a tiny portion of the cone there. Of course, the storm's center could still track towards that northern periphery of that cone. It's a GFS model with those tropical storm force winds just really edging their way along the coastline there. Certainly some part of the southern tip of Hawaii is likely to get tropical storm force winds. I think we're running with about 45% chance of storm force winds there on that southern tip. The rest of the island there, probably starting up at about 20% chance of tropical storm force winds on the northern extremity of the Big Island. The rest of the island is generally around 15 to 20% chance of storm force winds. You can also see Gilmer behind it there as well, giving Hawaii a close pass, but it looks like it will pass safely, a safe distance away from the islands there on its weaker southern side of what's left of that hurricane. Of course, it's a Category 3 right now, but it is showing significant signs that it is starting to weaken. And then you just about see that next storm behind it as well, a mature hurricane there too, although that one does start to curve towards the north. Look at the rainfall then on this radar reflectivity simulation, and a few yellows over those islands, so it doesn't get the massive amounts of the reds there near the center of the storm, but north of it could still be some significant rainfall, although it will be rather quick because the storm is moving at a decent pace, so the whole show will be over probably in just a few hours from start to finish. So here it is again. You can see the eastern side of the Big Island in particular. There is where we're looking at the highest amounts of rainfall, probably from the bands of the storm. Of course, they'll be running right into the island. It won't be able to clear the mountains, so it'll be dumping loads of rain there over the eastern side of Hawaii. Up to 5 inches there on that forecast now. It'll up a little bit from earlier when it was suggesting 4. Of course, near the central core of the storm later on there, it does stall a little bit to the southwest of Hawaii, getting towards 12 inches where it stalls. Of course, that's well out to sea. And a secondary spot there up north as well. That was from Gilmer, getting towards 12 inches too. Sea surface temperatures are still looking decent, although they are only marginal around the storm right now. They'll increase again when it gets to Hawaii, but at the moment it is running very close, around 26 degrees Celsius, and it will rise up a little bit further once it gets towards Hawaii, up towards 27 once it clears the Big Island to the west. These are minimum temperatures. They are probably going to be a little bit higher than that. And for Gilmer, just in case people were wondering there, it'll be entering much cooler waters and it will struggle a lot more than Hone will in that later period. So here's the satellite imagery of the storm right now, looking pretty decent with that convection on the southern side of it, but the storm has been struggling. It is partially exposed circulation there. The northern side really hasn't been building up convection at all at the moment, but it should be improving fairly soon. We were expecting that it would struggle for the first day or two, but once it is approaching Hawaii, it should get up towards 50, 60 miles per hour, maybe even 70, and the National Hurricane Center is still forecasting a hurricane out of this, albeit a brief 75 mile per hour peak. Here it is on mesoscale imagery, a nice look there of the storm's development. Slow movement towards the west, although I say slow, this is rapid scan, so it looks a lot slower. But all of that convection, mainly on that southern and eastern side, wouldn't surprise me at all if it wrapped around to that northern side well before it gets to Hawaii. Just getting those first visible images there as well. Certainly no problems with its low-level circulation. It just needs to build up some more cloud cover there in the higher levels. It looks like it might have a bit of a dry air issue. Those yellows there showing drier air masses. Of course, it is surrounded by dry air to the north there as well. But it's got decent amounts of banding on the eastern side especially. Of course, the western side is a little bit more vulnerable there because that's the way the storm's heading. And you can see very little convection there on that western northern side. So it is hanging in there, but Hone should be starting to strengthen fairly soon. It could still do so whilst looking like this. We just got to wait for some more passes and some more evidence really to show signs of the storm developing. That would be stuff like convection building up a little bit more into the atmosphere, bigger aerial coverage, and obviously convection blowing up over the center of the storm would be a surefire way to see that this storm is strengthening. But as of right now, it is a tropical storm watch for the Hawaiian Islands. It is getting closer, and I think warnings may be required by the time we get to tomorrow, as it is looking like it's going to get pretty close.
Become an Ultimate Fan today.